Welcome. We are the Owatonna School Board. This is Monday, February 24th, 5:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order, and Tim is going to give us an update on our attendance.
Just missing Erin.
She'll be right in. Yep. Let's start our meeting with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Up first would be to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 4 is the mission moments. It's not very often that the recipients and the people being highlighted get a round of applause when they enter the room, but Mr. Elstad, if you would, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the board, tonight it's my distinct pleasure to focus our mission moment on our strategy of high quality teaching and learning. So I'm going to ask Katie Demmer, Joni Harmson, Lori Pierrette, and Sammy Nelson to please come up to the front, please. Tonight I am pleased to lift up our instructional coaches for our mission moment. These 4 coaches provide an important role at our elementary buildings. Instructional coaches help teachers sift through all of the student data they receive to identify which students need additional help. Then they work together to determine which research-based program will help meet that need. The coaches also collaborate with teachers to help them problem-solve situations in their classroom, brainstorm new ways of reaching students, or to grow in their teaching skill. This year, our instructional coaches went through over 70 hours of reading instruction training for the READ Act. Then train our elementary and special education teachers. That knowledge is an incredibly valuable resource as we move forward with READ Act implementation. I am personally grateful, and on behalf of the Owatonna Public Schools are grateful for their expertise that they bring to our schools and the ways that they support our learning to inspire excellence for every learner every day. Members of the board, if you have questions for our instructional
I'm
coaches.
sure there are. I'm sure there are. Thank you all for being here. This is it's quite a treat to have all of you here. Questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. 50% of you standing here have had significant influence on my household and my kids, and I am just so happy to see you here and know that you're now influencing the entire district. So thank you, all 4 of you, so very much.
Maybe just one story. Yeah. I'm sure the READ Act, we're all excited to kind of see and hear some of the stories coming out of that work that you folks are doing. I don't know if anybody has a story you might share with us about how you've seen it impact a student or a class, a teacher. Don't want to put you on the spot. If nothing comes to mind, that's fine too.
I can think of just like even in our building, just getting.
Katie, can I stop for a minute? There's a microphone right there. Will you press that little button too, just so that we can get the recording?
Push the button. Okay. I can think of just in our work within our building and getting to see individual teachers applying things like getting to coach kindergarten special ed teachers and classroom teachers and like how do we make this work and like make it work in action and to see the excitement in both the kids and the learning that can happen and then that transfer to the teacher of like, okay, now can I try this with my next group? Like I've never known that this could work. And so it's been exciting to see really that learning work be put into action. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the best part of our jobs, I would say, is we being able to not just share the knowledge, but really put it into practice and make it matter for kids. Thank you. You guys want to add a word?
It's not really a story, but it's just really fun to see teachers. Can you hear me? Am I close enough?
Yeah, we're good. Thank you, Joni.
It's fun to see teachers connect what they're learning to resources that they have in the classroom. So last year we started using functional phonics with our kindergarten through 2nd grade, and then this year 95% group resources for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And teachers are learning things and going, oh, that's why that is. Oh, that's why that is. So it's just fun to see the connections and the light bulbs just as much as it is with kids, with adults.
Great.
So
Excellent.
Nice, thank you. Every learner, every day.
I think that is probably the biggest thing for me too, has been seeing the teachers embrace the role as learner. Really, everybody has taken the I don't know what I don't know mindset and is okay to admit that, oh, maybe what I was doing isn't best. And they're just really reflecting and learning and putting things into the place in their classrooms. And it's cool. Yeah.
Excellent. Well-deserved. It's so much fun when Mr. Elstead puts folks like yourselves in front of us and we get to hear more about what actually happens in the classroom. So thank you ever so much. Glad you're here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to move on. Item 5 tonight is public forum. We do have a card. Roger Wasek. Mr. Wasek, if you'd like to make your way up, and as you're on your way up, I would remind the group that this is a good opportunity to remind you that the importance of this is a good meeting decorum. We do not allow slander, defamation, profanity, personal attacks, or revelations of private data. And as chair, I respectfully request that the public refrain from interrupting the speaker during his public forum. Roger, you're afforded 3 minutes. Asked to state your name and the subject you'd like to address.
Roger Wasek, still at 646 East Vine Street, and you guys probably had a copy of this a couple weeks ago, but I realized I got my wrong email address on it, so I'll send it out to you again. When someone complains about any aspect of ISD 761, such as curriculum, I mention there are choices such as charter school, private school, homeschool, online school, and apprenticeship programs in a hybrid educational system. And then I found these interesting excerpts on digital curriculum from the book Steve Jobs. I'll let you read those on your own. Probably the most important aspect of innovative learning opportunities that I have forgotten to mention in the past is adult or community education. Since I believe in lifelong learning, I'm going to solicit help from everyone in the community to call your city council members and ask when we'll have a tour of Owatonna sewage treatment plant, with someone that can explain combined heat and power from the biogas produced in the digester tank. Call your county board members and ask when we'll have a repeated community education fall 2019 class, Minnesota Goes Green, recycling and organics facility tour. And most important, call Owatonna Public Utilities Commissioners Board members and ask when we'll have a tour of St. Paul Regional Energy Facility with Minnesota's 100% carbon-free by 2040 law. The last tour is the most important for educating an energy science ignorant society addicted to fossil fuel. St. Paul's Regional Energy Facility is a combined heat and power facility that utilizes waste wood to generate electricity and heat and cool downtown St. Paul and some residential areas. I'll end with a suggestion for the City Council to have Owatonna's Economic Development Directory conduct a feasibility study for a small regional energy facility constructed in an industrial park. Thank you.
Mr. Wasek, thank you, and we look forward to getting that information from you when you send that to us via email. That takes care of the public forum. Item 6 tonight would be reports. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstad for an introduction from our representative from Ehlers Public Finance.
Thank you. Tonight we have Matt Hammer from Ehlers, who is our financial advisor for the district. Just if I can bring you back in June, the board approved basically tax-neutral bond to do some indoor air quality projects in addition to a pool project to make sure that our pool was of good functioning nature. And so tonight, Matt is here to present the pre-sale report for those bonds that will be sold in the near future. So,
yeah, thanks, Jeff. Good evening, everybody. Matt Hammer, District's financial advisor. I'm just here to walk through some of our assumptions going into the sale next month. We are going to partake in a few things over the next month. One will be engaging in a rating process with the rating agency Moody's that the district uses, conduct our due diligence process with the school district, and then we're set to sell the bonds on March 24th ahead of your meeting that night and planning to award. High level, if you go back to where we were last summer, we were estimating a 5% interest rate on the bonds at that point in time. We've updated our estimates right now to be 4.16% is what we've established in our pre-sale report. We think that has some cushion still built into it. We had some sales today that that went very well. So we're hopeful that rates hold through the next month, and we'll be in good shape when we get to selling the district's bonds. Right now, we've aligned the bond sale to line up with the bid schedule that SiteLogic is under. So we are looking to get an idea of where the bids come in, specifically for the indoor air quality portion of the project before we actually finalize the financing. The information we have in the pre-sale report aligns with the authorized up to amounts that were established by the board when they adopted the resolution last July. So we'll likely be refining these numbers as we move forward. They'll look different than when we get to sale date, but we wanted to give everybody an idea of where we're at today. The levies were established, so those levies that for the first year's payments were estimated. So if we go back to the process that we conducted last July, we established the levies as part of the district's long-term facilities maintenance plan that the board adopted at their July meeting. Those levies were included in the district's levy that was authorized and certified in the December meeting, and property owners will start paying towards those taxes here when they get the final statements in March. So I think we're overall in good shape, but we just wanted to give everybody an update on where we're at. There's information in the report. Our numbers are all aligned with where we're thinking things are going to come in, and we're hopeful to get good bid results when we get to the district's meeting here in March, and I'll be back with results at that point in time. So I can take any questions folks have at this time.
I don't think so.
I'm looking at Ron. I'm waiting for Ron to come up with.
Good, I'm good.
You all right?
Yep.
You want to give us just Matt, if you would, a really, really quick overview. Part of the bonding is for indoor air quality, and those are issues that we're able to bond for. The second part of it is the renovation, essentially, of the pool. Can you give us a quick overview on that?
Yeah, so the $5.8 million was approved as part of the project within the district's authority to approve projects in the LTFM program. So there's three categories of projects. One is the indoor air quality component of this project. That estimated authorized amount is the authorized amount is $5.8 million. That's the component that we want to make sure that we have a good handle on where the bids come in with SiteLogic, because those dollars are restricted in their use. The other component dates back to the original authorized election that happened in 2019 for the high school project and other projects that were included in that project. There was a remaining authority of $1.9 million roughly that makes up the balance of what we're looking at issuing, and those dollars are going to go towards the pool component of the project that has been identified, but have much more flexibility. So those dollars will try to maximize the deposit when we get to the sale process here in March.
And for ease and simplicity, everything is rolled into one, and it appears as though you've tried to manage the structure of it so it coincides with the existing debt that was issued as part of the new high school.
Yep, exactly. Yep, and we're doing it as a bifurcated issue where they'll have two purposes, but that allows us to save on cost of issuance and manage the commitments when we go out to market only once instead of doing it in two separate issues.
Good. Questions?
I think it's all very consistent with, we've been talking about this for, like you said, last summer, and then approved the levy in the fall, December. So yeah, it's all very much as expected. So we'll just pray you get a good rate when you actually sell.
Yep, we'll be back here in a month, so hopefully with good news.
Issuance on those would be this, did you say it's the same night as our March?
Yep, we're planning to take bids the morning of March 24th.
And I'm trying to remember, did you show up here at that meeting that night to
Yep,
give
we'll
us
be
the
back
results?
at that meeting we'll work with Andrew Heckey, which is your legal counsel, to do the final resolutions. They'll come out in drafts, so when you see the board packet, you'll see blanks and that when you get the initial resolution, but we'll work with her that day then to complete those documents and get the finalized documents for the meeting that night.
Good. That appears to be it. Matt, thank you very much.
Yes.
Glad you
thank
came down. Thanks. We'll see you
Yep.
again next month.
Yep, we'll talk to you in a month.
Item 7 tonight would just be general information. As part of your packet, you had the enrollment report. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Elstad with regard to the enrollment report? One little red quadrant for Lincoln School, but pretty good. Okay, we're going to move on. Item 8, no action required by the board. But we'll start with board forum. Ron, I'll start down there on your end. If you'd like to give us just an update on any committee reports that you've had and anything else.
Well, we did have the Finance Committee meeting beginning of February, and then we have another one again this coming Monday. But yeah, we saw the report at the last meeting, so nothing new to
Okay.
Good. We had facilities meeting just this evening at 4 o'clock. A couple things to report is that the Rose Street appraisal has come back, and we're just learning and discussing various options. We just heard about kind of the bonding agreement. So we talked about that a little bit too, just more details about what the pool project was going to be about, the HVAC, both at the OEC and McKinley are the two schools that will get have the HVAC upgraded. And then kind of our internal general summer projects include some work done at Wilson on carpet, some asbestos removal at OMS, some portable siding work at Lincoln, and some other wall work at McKinley, internal walls, and then some floor replacement at Washington. So those are just internal projects that would be under general summer work.
Congratulations to those gymnasts.
Right.
How exciting. What, it's just fun. Last Friday, Andrea and I had the opportunity to wear Wilson with Mr. Elstad, and that's always good to be in buildings and classrooms and see those little beauties just get excited about learning. So.
Larry.
Yeah, just, so policy committee, obviously we continue to work almost monthly, I think. We've been on a fairly good schedule. So we met recently. You see in your packet first readings on several policies, but the bulk then is at the second reading. So I don't know, do you want me to comment on those now or later?
We do have,
Maybe we can wait.
they
Yeah.
do come up as part of the agenda.
Other than that, I would just add on the gymnast thing, I was commenting before the meeting, I spoke with a parent of one of the team members, and of course they were very excited. But we spoke specifically about the facility, and she specifically said, I was talking about, oh, great coaches and kids, and so exciting. And she said, Lori, she said, having a dedicated space, a physical space that supports kids in their learning and their growing and their athletics, she said, I think that's a game changer. So for what it's worth, they're appreciative, and it's nice to see they were successful and proud of them.
Agreed. We had, Nancy Benson had reached out to, invite us to the reception at the high school. And my response to her was essentially to say, and I included Mr. Elstad, can we get the gymnastics team here to a school board meeting for proper
The
recognition?
invite was put out for March 24th for a mission moment, so yeah.
That's great. My very quick update for all of you with regard to the superintendent search goes something like this. Friday of this week, and Chris Pika, Director of Human Resources, is here and can answer any questions that we might have. But this Friday is the close of the application process. Next week, I will ask each of you to coordinate with Chris Pika to get into the district office, and you will review a packet for each of the applicants. And the name and their personal information is redacted, and they will be referred to as like client or candidate A and candidate B and so on. And that is simply because we will use our March 10th work session to then walk our way through that. And we'll take this list of candidates and we'll winnow it down to, I'm going to say 5 or maybe even 6 candidates that we will then interview on Monday and Tuesday. That would be March 17th and 18th. And from that list, we're gonna bring it then down to 2 names, and we'll interview one person on Wednesday and one person on Thursday. So that week of the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, those are going to be 4 really busy days for us. But on Thursday night, the 20th, it would be our goal and it would be our intent that we're going to make a decision, and we will make that announcement then on Thursday night. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's probably going to be easier for us to conduct all of this over at the DO in that meeting room, because it's an easier format, it's an easier environment, I think, for each of us to sit in a way where we can interact with each of these candidates and ask questions. Elizabeth has posed a really relevant and germane question, and that is, how about the questions? And Chris is doing sort of the culling of a huge database of questions and bringing that, winnowing it down so that there's a very, very nice wide variety of topics that we will ask about. And you are more than welcome to send questions that you would like to Chris in order to make sure that we are compliant with the nature of the questions that we are asking. But we don't talk about the questions in this format because then everyone would know what we're going to ask them. So that's the very quick bird's eye view. Go ahead.
Just a clarification there, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the work session, we will also kind of discuss who will ask what question. I think that's some of the coordination that we'll do.
Go ahead,
So,
you're right.
with regard to the questions, I think
Yes.
our plan is that they will be ready for us, obviously not to be shared, and then we'll kind of talk through who's going to
Right.
lead on which question and how we'll orchestrate
Yep.
the interview itself,
Thanks. That's right.
if that helps.
Yep. There's my board forum update. Tim?
Two things, I guess. I spent the last 2 Wednesdays with MSBA learning about how to be a clerk. So
For you.
hopefully I now know a little bit more than I did before. Eric's got big shoes to fill, so I figured I would avail myself of that opportunity. The other thing I've done this past week and will be doing again this week is teaching junior achievement class again at Wilson School. It's one of the opportunities that we get to actually, you can walk in as a volunteer and you can see the education happening and actually be a part of it. And it's a great experience. I really enjoy it. The kids are great. They're so smart, little fourth graders. And so, yeah, I'd highly recommend if you ever want to actually get on the business end of all the stuff that we talk about, that's a great opportunity to do it.
Just quick question maybe for the policy committee, in that one of the MSBA breakout sessions that I went to was about Title IX, and even though we had just approved it policy-wise, they said, well, now you need to go back to the 2020 Title IX instead of the 2024 that we had just passed. And so I just hadn't seen it yet on the information that was given. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
If I might, so we've contacted MSBA because and what they've said is they're going to be issuing guidance like they do with all of our policy revisions too, because some people might have different languages, the language that they were using. So we're waiting for MSBA to come out with their model policy that it reflects the change back. Yeah.
Aaron?
For mock trial, we have made it to state, which is super exciting. So on February 15th, we had our prosecution went against Albert Lee, and we won. So we're super excited. So we've got state coming up here, and we're going to go stay at a hotel, and it's going to be awesome. And then obviously from there, you have a shot at nationals, which is super cool. Nationals, you get a brand new case, and then you have about a month.
Yes, about a month.
About a month to analyze it and create an entire new directs and crosses, and everyone has to learn their new witness. So that's it's super awesome. I'm interested in how, even if we don't make it, how watching that competition, because they publish those online. Girls wrestling also made it to state. So, and obviously we all know about the gymnastics winning state. So we've got some big wins for Minnesota and Owatonna out here. Robotics, week 0, we went to Egan. Our robot did super well. We're making some changes to help improve it before we're off to Byron this weekend. So we had week 0 2 weeks ago. Byron's going to be this weekend, and then a week after that is Colorado. And then also, Ayub and I have sent off our for superintendent selection. We've sent out our student list to Sarah, so you'll have your panel of students and then your randomly selected ones all set up.
My apologies. We didn't send it to Sarah. We sent it to Ms. Pica.
Sorry.
There you go. The HR director. Just moving on to what I have to say. So over the past few weeks, we met with both the high school and middle school advisory groups to gather student input on various topics. Unfortunately, we weren't able to attend the ALC meeting. But yeah, I'm going to discuss what we talked about in the middle school advisory meeting. So we discussed concerns raised by students and introduced the idea of hosting a panel of high school upperclassmen. So the panel would serve two main purposes. One, to provide guidance on class options and career paths, helping middle schoolers just make informed decisions about their future, just so they're one step ahead than we were going into ninth grade. And the second purpose is to foster peer connections, just allowing younger students to hear firsthand advice from juniors and seniors who have navigated those choices themselves a couple years ago. I think that's something I would have wanted my 8th grade year, and I think it will help them just be one step ahead. And then for the high school advisory meeting, we focused on reviewing the recent survey results and just analyzed the data. We engaged in like a discussion to understand why some of the results were the way they were, and just that input will help us interpret the survey more effectively and ensure that student perspectives are heard. Yeah, that's all I had regarding the advisory meetings and some of the extracurricular stuff. Obviously, gymnastics won state, which is super impressive. And then for speech, so far we're going into our home meet 2 weeks from now, I believe, and then Big 9 is a couple days after that.
Yeah, I wanted to mention we had a triple Owatonna discussion final, which pretty much means that Ayub, Josie, Sanford, and I all made it into finals for discussions. So it was 3 Owatonna people and then 3 people from different schools. So it was a really, really fun time where all 3 of us got to final in the same category for once.
Excellent. Congratulations. Nate. Does anybody have anything more for beyond their committee meeting report that they would like to share for board forum?
I got a couple other things I thought of too. So Andrea and I did visit the middle school too, since
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. So I don't think we talked about that. So that was a very good visit. And yeah, I said I appreciated the energy in the building, but it seemed positive, not chaos, I mean, so there was a lot happening, and yeah, we were there a little over an hour. Mr. Elson was with us as well. And yeah, just very impressed with the environment, and talked to quite a few teachers, got to see them start dissecting a deer liver or deer heart, and in one of the science classes. So just a lot of things that were going on, but it was very good. And then also too, just to mention the girls basketball team, a couple things that the winning streak they're on, but then also the really positive thing, the letter to the editor that was in the paper from New Prague. I don't know if anybody saw that. There was a letter to the editor in our paper written from the New Prague assistant varsity coach.
Yes.
Just commenting on the environment that they experienced when they came here on that Saturday, and they actually beat us. So somebody did say, well, maybe if they wouldn't have won, they wouldn't have sent the letter. But so they ended the streak. But just the environment they experienced with the coaching staff, with the school, and there was extra events that day going on.
Yeah, if I can add to that, and it's really nice to get those emails from other, districts and other schools that we compete against. In this particular case, there was a student athlete from the New Prague girls team that broke the 1,000 point mark during a game here. And instead of just stopping the game and kind of giving the basketball, our announcers went the extra mile, and they announced her name and what she had accomplished, and it just made the whole event feel special for a student that doesn't even attend here. And there was just a lot of gratitude going around, and that's just, Mr. Otker, Coach Webb, the whole activities department is just class act the way they do things, and that was certainly a testimony, so.
Good, thank you. Okay, we will move on. You all had the benefit of seeing the work session summary in your packet, and I thought that did a nice job of summarizing the discussion that we had. And lastly, and Elizabeth did make a question with regard to these policy revisions, but does anybody have any other questions relative to the first reading on the policy updates that you saw? Okay, hearing none. We will move on. Item B would be the administrative report. I know that Julie Sullivan is here, and I'll turn things over to Mr. Elstad for
Yeah,
some
and I'm going to
introductions.
ask Julie to come up to the table here. As part of an annual piece that the board hears and we're responsible for as a district, we do an American Indian education sort of concurrence report. So I've asked Ms. Sullivan tonight to share that report, or just at least share the findings of it, and then for you.
Well, good evening. Thanks for having me here. Each year, if we have students that qualify under the Native American, qualifications, then we are required to have an American Indian Parent Advisory Committee meeting. So that's what we call the APAC. And that's what we had. We had it back in January. We invited all of the families that have students that would qualify. We had 6 who responded that they were going to be there, so we ordered pizzas and we were all ready to go. And we had one who showed up, and actually she drove from out of town. She came from Pemberton because she has a granddaughter who is in our online program, who is Native American, and we had a wonderful time together. We kind of ran through some of the different things that our school district is doing, different pieces of the curriculum, some of the new standards that are coming down from the state that require some extra attention to Native American, whether it's literature or some history components. And she was very highly engaged and brought her 2 granddaughters with her, actually a 9th grader and a senior. And we had great dialogue together. So last year we didn't have anybody that showed up. And next year maybe we'll have a little bit more. We have 39 students this year that are earmarked. And so that means next year we will also get some financial support from the state. I think it comes with $20,000 initially. If you hit a certain benchmark, I think it's 20 students, and then you get additional funding for each student after that. And we can decide, we talked with this grandparent about literature. She said, is there any chance that we could get kids to like a powwow if they wanted to attend something like that? And we said, well, certainly that would be something that would qualify under that. And so there is a document for Chairman Sebring to sign and Superintendent Elstad, and then we send that into the state that verifies that we did indeed have a meeting and that she concurred with kind of the action steps that we are taking.
Nice of her to drive from Pemberton.
Oh my gosh, it was wonderful. We just had, I think we were together for about an hour and a half, and just some wonderful dialogue and why she moved to Minnesota and to get her granddaughters closer to some educational opportunities that might, so they came from Texas, where she said they just didn't have a whole lot that focused on Native American. And so it meant a lot to her to have her grandchildren here. And even though she said my granddaughter's in the online program, it's nice to know that there are different opportunities, and that curriculum has some components to it. So it was a really, really good conversation that night.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will move on to item 9, which is the consent agenda. The quick reminder, we're approving the minutes from January 27th, the disbursement, as well as the personnel report. Is there any reason to pull any one of these items out? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Tim, if you would, please.
Ron?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Jolene?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. 7-0 pass.
Carries. Very good. Item 10 tonight, there are a couple of items that require board action. Item A would be the policy revisions. This is the second reading. There were a couple of things that had some fairly extensive changes to them. But with that, let's start with questions. Does anybody have any questions relative to the policy revisions?
Maybe, Mark, I'll just jump in if I may. Yeah. There were a couple policies last time we met that had some comments. Elizabeth, I think maybe they were from you, so maybe I'll just respond to those and let you know. So I'm looking at specifically 418, the drug-free workplace. There was discussion at our last meeting about concern over the smell of cannabis and so forth on clothing or backpacks or so on in the classroom. And the policy committee discussed that topic. We engaged with district staff. And I think the consensus, so we have not made any additional changes to that policy. The discussion, and please you guys can add to it, is that we felt the existing policies addressed the concern, or at least allowed staff options to deal with that kind of scenario. We acknowledge that there could be all kinds of other types of smells or things that might also require attention, and we just didn't want to get too far in the weeds about any particular type of event. So I think staff, were very supportive in acknowledging that in practice it works just fine, that they didn't feel anything was broken. So I don't know, any other comments on that discussion or?
Oh, you got it.
Okay, yeah, I'll stop there. I'll jump down to 606.5. This one was library materials, and again, I think the concern was specifically about whether the school board needs to kind of weigh in or somehow review this report that's required to the state. Again, our committee discussed that along with staff and leadership. The conclusion we reached was really that there are many, many reports that go to the state on our behalf, and we were uncomfortable necessarily calling this one out to require some kind of board review or action. And so we made one minor change to kind of clarify that. If you look in the policy itself, we removed the word board, so it just says school district, which is maybe a little clearer that we're enabling our leadership and our district staff to take that action on our behalf. Anything else on that?
Nailed it again.
All righty. And I have no further comments unless there are questions on other policies.
I don't know if this is the right place, but I guess I would still like to remove, so rather than approve all the policies at one time, remove the 606.5 and the 601 policies to vote separately on those.
Do that.
So we just need a motion to that effect, right?
Yeah, because we've not entertained a motion to approve anything yet, so. Well, unless there are further questions, if we're at a point where we're ready to approve, we can clump together the ones that your preferences that we would join together or pull out.
Sure, whatever you think.
Why don't you make the motion and first identify the ones that you are comfortable proceeding with approving?
Okay.
You can exclude the ones.
I was going to say, you can do the opposite.
It's probably a shorter list.
So you're saying make the motion to?
Or do you want Tim to do it? Tim's got it right here.
Go ahead.
I move that we pull out policies 601 and 606.5 for a combined separate approval process from the list as it is presented.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this slate with the exception of 601 and
606.5.
Okay. And we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. The second motion then is,
I move that the board approve the policies as presented, excluding 606.1 and 606.5.
no, hold on. Nope, you just repeated what the first one was.
I just want to get it accurate twice in a row. That's why.
No, let's, the second one is to make the motion for the two policies in particular,
Oh, not the list?
not the list. Just, what are the two that we pulled out the first time?
601 and 606.5 were removed from the list. You
Correct.
just approved as a board the remaining policies. So 601 and 606.5 remain for your consideration of approval.
Right.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we approve 601 and 606.5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that?
And this is where I'll just
Yes.
say the reason is just, these are policies that I had voted no on previously. And 601 policy, same reason as last time, was basically it states, I feel that the policy is stating an opinion, stating that basically assuming institutional racism and that students continue to be treated in that way. So based on that, I believe that's an opinion. I just don't feel comfortable approving it as stated. And then the 606.5 is just, I still think there's just that little missing link in that the school board is just not being made aware of, even in the reconsideration process. If once those materials are reconsidered and reported to the state, there's just, the school board doesn't seem to be aware of any of those. So that was just a concern to me. So that's all.
If I may, and again, if leadership wants to comment, in my experience, because I thought about that as we were discussing this, and again, you're right that the policy doesn't dictate or require that the board see that material, but I think as a practical matter, in our working relationship with our leadership and our district leadership, those topics are certainly not hidden from us. They're not, they might well report them. They're not prohibited from reporting or somehow informing the board. I don't know, Mr. Elstead, in your experience.
No, I would agree. I think the word awareness is a strong word because I think we would provide a definite awareness if there was a challenge, but the way the policy was passed before was it laid out a clear process for a challenge, and that we would walk through a process with a small committee of community members that would be willing to read the text, provide some discussion, and then either decide or have recommendation to either say this isn't appropriate or it remains appropriate. And so as the superintendent, then I get to operationalize that by either removing that text and or keeping the text there based upon the decision of the challenge committee.
And lastly, I'll just say we're fortunate to have you, Mr. Elstead. In 4 months, though, we're welcoming a new superintendent, and there might be some unknowns moving forward. So,
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed?
nay.
Does carry, duly noted. Item B tonight would be the achievement and
Excuse me, I think we have to go back and approve the other ones.
No, we did those first.
Did we already approve the slate other than the two?
Yes, so you've approved the
We
slate
did.
and you pulled each of those out individually that were asked to be pulled and you voted in the
But I
affirmative.
thought
for
the
those.
original motion was to remove the two from the slate.
That's what I understood as well.
But then.
So then we don't have to approve the slate?
We voice voted anonymously to approve the slate after we removed those two. That was Jolene's
Yes.
motion.
Okay.
That is what I
Okay.
think I
And
did.
then-
I'm
I
with
tried
you,
to
Ron.
double down just
But I
to make
just-
sure I got
yeah, I
it
mean, I
right.
think I just want to
Mr.
clarify
Elstead
that.
said.
Sarah, what are the
Sarah, what do you
minutes?
think?
What do the minutes state?
So what I had was that the first motion removed the two policies, but I thought you had to have another motion to approve that.
Yeah,
We missed that part.
good point of clarity.
Correct, that's what I understood as well.
I move to
Okay.
approve the remaining policies as presented.
Second.
Comfortable with that, Sarah?
Mr.
Okay.
Sebring, point of order. If we could, because we've drifted a bit here, I would like to have those remaining policies named that you are approving as a slate.
Tim, do you have it?
I've got it if you want.
Lori has it.
Yep, so the ones we're approving with this motion, then, the remaining ones are 418, 603, 604, 609, 613, 606, 619, and 707.
I'm going to wait till I have a visual confirmation from Sarah. You okay with that? Okay, so we do have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks for the patience there, everybody, to make sure we had it right. Now we'll move on. Item B would be the achievement and integration plan. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Elstead for some.
You heard Ms. Julie Sullivan, Ms. Sullivan provide a report on this at the most recent work session about the achievement and integration. Again, this is a grant that comes to the district. It joins the Blooming Prairie Public Schools and the Owatonna Public Schools, provides some unique opportunities for both of us. There is a grant, so there's funding sources that are provided for both of us as a result of this. And what you see in your packet materials is simply the goals that have been laid out by the teaching and learning department as well as the folks that have been working on that grant.
Do you have any questions? Will you please introduce this motion for us?
I move that the board approve the achievement and integration plan as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item C tonight would be that resolution to make recommendations for reductions. We heard about this at our work session 2 weeks ago, have a pretty good understanding of the dollar amount, things that are involved with this. Mr. Elstad, anything more that you'd like to comment on with regard
I
to
would,
that?
yes. Thank you for the primer there, because we are coming back to this item. The reason why this was related to some sort of ambiguity here is that we're still in the final process of identifying which staff may be impacted. I made a promise to our staff that if those that are impacted by any reductions will be discussed before it would come to any board vote so that they understand what's coming. So upon your consideration of approval tonight of this resolution, the next step for us is to indeed identify those individuals that will be impacted by the reductions, communicate with them fully. On March 24th, you'll receive a separate personnel report that will indicate any non-renewals, which is a practice we put in place and have had in place for many years in the district to make sure that staff are well informed if we do not intend to renew their contracts moving forward. So again, two-step process. Tonight, you're being asked to consider approving the resolution to provide the authority to make those reductions, and then within the next month, we will indeed take that to action upon your approval.
Questions?
And Mr. Elstad, so these are effective with the next school year? So
Correct.
that
They are
July
effective for
1.
the 25-26 school year, so FY26.
Right.
Yep.
So we have several months to kind of make these operational.
I move that the board approve the resolution directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item D tonight, the 26-27 school year. So it's not this upcoming school year, it's 26-27. Mr. Elstad, there's a couple changes that are a part of this recommendation.
Yeah, the biggest change here is to note that on any given school calendar year, when Labor Day happens to fall a little later in the month of September, there's typically a way for us to bump it back. And actually, right now, it's being discussed at the House and Senate committees that typically the legislature takes this up and will approve for the next 2 years to allow districts to start before the Labor Day because of the late holiday. So in this calendar, you'll see that we are indeed starting school right around the 1st of September. And then that's because Labor Day falls on Monday, September 7th in this particular 26-27 school year. Everything else is fairly straightforward. I will tell you this, and again, I want to separate these two. The 25-26 calendar is going to come back in March for your final review because we have indeed looked at a couple of professional development days. By the way, those have not been inserted in this calendar yet. This is a fairly straightforward and traditional school calendar that you're being asked to consider approving tonight.
Questions?
I noticed for December 23rd for school that day, is that, I know that's probably had.
It's up for debate all the time. One of the things, we do have a calendar committee that we meet with that look to make some of those decisions. Julie Sullivan leads our calendar committee. That was certainly discussed. I think there are those that fall on both sides of the issue because if you take a student contact day away on the 23rd of December, it has to come from somewhere else. And so the calendar committee is not real lenient on allowing more spring break dates to be taken away. So again, it's really a push and pull. This happens to be a year where the 23rd and the calendar committee's recommendation to us as administrators is that we go to school on the 23rd. So.
Any other questions? One of you be kind enough to introduce this motion for us.
I move that the board approve the 26-27 school calendar as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Final item tonight would be the gifts to the district. Item E would be gifts to the district. Mr. Elstad.
Yeah, we have a few gifts tonight. I'll just call out that even though there's no monetary value attached to it, we received an anonymous donation of 2 violins. Violins are incredibly expensive. I don't know that there was an estimated value we could even put with that, but again, there isn't a meeting that goes by that you're not considering approving and taking resolution with those gifts that are coming for various things within our community, and I continue to be always in awe of the gifts that we do receive and very grateful. So.
Agreed. Would one of you happen to have this motion queued up and ready to go?
I move that the board approve the resolution for acceptance of gifts as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Tim, if you would, this is a roll call vote.
Ron?
Aye.
Andrea?
Aye.
Jolene?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. 7-0 pass.
Excellent. Item 11 tonight would be to adjourn. I will make the motion that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor with an aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Good meeting tonight, folks. Thank you.